So, I am honored to be a part of the series Mission, Vision, and Purpose for this church. Y'all know this church holds a very special place in my heart. I give honor to the pastor, to his wife, to the leadership of this church. I give honor to my pastor who allows me to do this. I give honor to the ones who came before me and instilled in me. I give honor to the ones that have birthed something in me. For the men and the women who have called out of me the gifts and the callings of God. I give honor to the ones that had a vision of what I could be, instead of settling for what I was. And they called it out. I give honor to that today. So vision. Hey, anybody find it funny that they choose the blind man to preach on vision? Legally blind in one eye. And I'm going to preach on vision. What is this? Well, what is vision? Well, dictionary.com says that it is the act or power of sensing with eyes or sight. The act of power of anticipating that which will or may come to be.
Yeah.
An experience with a personage, thing, or event appears vividly or credibly to the mind, although not actually present, often under the influence of a divine or other agency.
Yes.
What is vision? So this is what dictionary.com says. By the way, I'll be preaching from the good King James today, because I just like some of the wording in it. Next slide. So what does the word say about vision? Well, the word says that where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law is happy as he. Next slide. Now let's talk about some men of vision. All right? So let's talk about Moses first. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert, and he came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see. When the Lord saw that he had turned to see. I find that wording very interesting. But when God saw this, he called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and he said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. Next slide. Here's that John guy. And I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw. And being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. And his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass. And if they burned in a furnace, as if they had burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth when a sharp two-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. Next slide. Let's bring Jesus on the scene. First definition was the power of sight, the ability to see. So I had to bring a blind man into it. And he cometh to Bathsheba, and they bring a blind man unto him, and he besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and he led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw all. And he looked up and he said, I see men as trees walking. And after that, he put his hands upon his eyes and made him look up, and he was restored, and he saw every man clearly. And he sent him away to his house, saying, neither go into the town nor tell it to any in the town. Next slide. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me. Woo! And what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, and make it plain upon the tablets, that he may run that readeth them. For the vision is yet for an appropriate time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Next slide. I think I got about 4 points. I'm going to make them brief and pretty easy. Number one, without vision, you die.
That's right.
Yeah.
Without vision, you die. In the animal kingdom, the blind are the first to go. Why? They can't defend themselves. They can't see the attack. They can't find food on their own. They wander into places they shouldn't be.
That was the point right there. Woo!
Without vision, you die. Told you I'm blind in one eye. It's my right eye. I'm right-handed. What's wrong with that? Well, growing up studying martial arts, when I would compete or fight, I had to learn to face left. Because if I face right,
Everybody out.
you beat the snot out of me. Without vision, you die. Found this interesting study. If you're queasy on the stomach, better plug your ears. It was done with mice. They took 2 mice and they put them in a jar of water. And they sealed the top. Both of them had the same amount of water. They had to swim. They sealed the top, blackened everything out, except for one. In one jar, they poked a hole in the top. The first mouse drowned in 7 minutes. The one with the light at the top they could see survived over 24 hours. Without vision, you die. If you can't see anything, you have no hope. Next point. Turn and see. So a lot of time we have We have vision, but we can't see anything. Oh, that right there was a mouthful. Anybody catch that? We have vision, but we have the ability to see, but we can't see anything. I have the ability to see this wall. It's a nice wall, but there's nothing there. Oh, here you are. How oftentimes do we not see because our focus is somewhere that it shouldn't?
Yeah, amen. Right.
What would have happened to Moses? There's a burning bush. And he turned and he saw it. Well, what happens is there's a burning bush.
This is out, don't it?
Because it was only, did you notice the verse when it said, and he turned and he saw, and after he saw, God spoke. When God saw that he turned and he looked upon the bush, it was only after he turned. John said, and I heard, and I turned to see that which I'd heard. How often do we hear? Just a question. I'm just throwing this out there. How often do we hear, but we never turn to see? How often do we hear his voice, but we never turn to see his face? I want to talk about this for a minute because if you're not in good relation, if you're not in good relation, where your ear is very fine-tuned to the voice of God, you better turn to check his face. To make sure that it's not the enemy. Or to make sure that it's not an idol that you have created. That looks and sounds like it. Better make sure it's not a counterfeit. If I had two counterfeit $100 bills, if I had a counterfeit and a real one, and I crumple them up, they sound the same. If I slap them on the table, they sound the same. But it's not till I look. And I know. Turn and see. I heard that which spoke behind me. And I turned and saw. How often do we miss something very important because we catch a glimpse and we walk on by?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good father. Don't you think he put detour signs out there? But if I see it, keep going, and I don't turn to see. Next point. Be prepared for an adjustment.
Yes.
Jesus is the Son of God. Yes, no?
Yes.
All powerful. He went about doing good and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, right? He spit in the man's eyes.
Almost.
And the man said, what do you see? Well, I see men walking as trees. Well, something's out of focus here. Let's lay hands on him again. Just because you receive the vision doesn't necessarily mean that you've received the entire vision. Church, we'll get into our vision statement here in a minute, but I hope that the vision statement that we have today isn't the vision statement that we have in 5 years. Because if it's the vision statement that we have in 5 years, we need to reevaluate some things. If I'm still seeing the same stuff 5 years from today that I see today, I need to evaluate some stuff. If I'm still seeing God the same way today, if I'm still seeing Him 5 years from now the same way that I see Him today, I need to reevaluate me. God never changes, right? Right?
Right.
God's forever changing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because with every new revelation becomes new sight. As God if you think God has revealed everything there is to know about Him to you, you need to spend some time with God. You need to repent for putting God in a box and forming Him to something that you can handle instead of the God that He is. Nick Honor camp last week. Paraphrase. Be prepared for the adjustment. Be prepared for your focus. We all have the ability to see, right? Right? But I surely like to put on my reading glasses and be able to read what I can see. I can see the words on the page, but if I don't create an adjustment, if an adjustment's not made, they mean nothing. I can see where we're going, but if I don't make that left when I'm supposed to make that right, the road's going to get hard. The awesome thing is our Father already knows that all this exists, and He's there to make the adjustments for us. You think it was any big surprise to Jesus that the man saw men as trees? I don't, because it's the only person that He ever asked, what did He see? So why did He ask the question? Because He already knew that His vision was obscure. That it wasn't in focus. He knew He needed a second touch. T.D. Jakes preaches a great message. If you got nothing to do on an afternoon on that particular scripture, he talks about going blind. That sometimes even though we have the vision and the vision is not in focus, we got to take the step. Because you see, the vision requires some faith. It's not in focus yet. I'm not close enough. But I still got to take the step. And as I take the step, the closer I get, the more in focus that it comes. Sometimes we just have to take the step. Sometimes we got to take the step and wait for the second touch. Sometimes we got to take the step and wait for the adjustment. But we still got to take the step. We've got to take the step for the vision that the church has today, so that 5 years from now we can get the next vision. And then the next one. Until we can share with John in the vision that he had. I used to think I was not a man of vision until God gave me vision. Don't think me crazy. But I know that I've been in the presence of the one on the Most High. And I have seen things and heard things that I can't explain. And I'm like, why do you show me this? And he's like, just wait. And he starts to turn. And he starts to adjust some things. And some of the things that he will adjust, if you've ever been to a chiropractor and he makes an adjustment, sometimes they don't feel good. Sometimes they crack and you moan. That's all right, because just give it time. It'll be better. It's kind of the way God is. He's like, crack! Oh! See? You catch that? Next slide. Once you receive it, write it down. I don't think we do enough writing. Why is it important to write the vision down? So you remember. That's pretty simple. So you have a point of reference. We need a point of reference to what God is doing in our lives. Well, God set me on the straight and narrow, and I'm bound for heaven. Heard that my whole life. I'm on the straight and narrow. It's straight and it's narrow from point A to point B, but it's curvy all the way there. Sometimes we got to have that reference point. Sometimes we got to be reminded of where we came from.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to have a better understanding of where we're going. And the vision. Pastor preached on mission last week, right? Let me give you a little insight on vision. Vision is the mechanism of which you obtain the mission. Vision. Anybody play video games in there? All right, here you go. For that generation. You have you open up your video game, you got a mission and an objective, right? I've got to do this to win or to move to the next level. Right? Your vision is your map that gets you there. It's the mechanism by which you are to obtain your mission objective. That's why mission, vision, purpose is so important. And it's very important to us right here at the stage at which we're at. We're in infancy. Well, we've been around for a while. Yeah, but we've been rebirthed. but we've been rebirthed. Rebirth, that's a good word. We've been reborn. How many years have we been around? 14, 15? But we're not the same that we were, are we? In fact, there had to be some dying along the way, didn't there? There had to be some pruning along the way, didn't there? There had to be some rebirthing along the way too, didn't there? And that's where we stand. So vision is important. So we're in this infancy stage. Let's talk about an infant's vision. What does an infant see? They don't see much. When an infant is first born, they see light and dark. They see light and dark. And as they begin to form and mature, the detail starts to come. But what happens if that infant can't see? You better have somebody to guide it along the way or it dies. And as it begins to mature and see details, it then can start to relate certain things. It sees fire, it knows hot. It runs. It sees mama, it knows good. It goes to her. It sees the electrical socket, where there's a 50-50 chance. At least the first time. Vision. The mechanism by which we're going to reach our mission. Anybody remember what their mission was? Church. I had it on my email. So what's our vision? I'm glad you asked. Next slide, please. Our vision is to seek God for His guidance to bridge the gap between the kingdom of God and the world He created. Are we that?
Not yet.
We seek God for His guidance.
Yeah.
We're working on the bridge.
Yeah.
We've got a sense of kingdom, but we do understand that we live in the world that He created. That's the vision for this church. I'm going to do my best to make sure that every time I'm around you, I put it in front of you. So that you can do what Habakkuk said. Read it and run with it. Because the fact of the matter is, God called me to preach the gospel. I think He called you too. The Great Commission was not for preachers, teachers, apostles, prophets, apostles. It wasn't just for them. It was for every child of God. To go ye into all the world. Are you ye? To go ye into all the world, preach the gospel. To preach the good news. We're to preach, and sometimes we should use words when necessary. But it is our job to share the goodness of God. Now, let's talk about vision for a second. If we can't see it, how can we share it? If when I talk to you about the goodness of God, you don't understand it, I challenge you to turn and see it.
Woo! Yes.
If you don't understand the goodness of God, and your idea of the goodness of God is tainted, I challenge you to ask Him for an adjustment. I challenge every one of you in here that this is the church's vision. This is where we're at. This is what we are. This is where we're going, how we're going to get there. I challenge you to have a personal vision. Write down a personal vision statement of what God wants to do in your life, where He wants to take you. You need a personal mission statement and a personal vision statement. This is what God put me on this earth to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. How many people got that? How many people, not even wrote down? How many people know that? That you know what God put you on the earth to do and how He's going to do it. Most people got half of it. I challenge you to get both parts. And write it down. Why? Because that's what He said to do.
Point of reference.
Because it's your point of reference. It's your starting point. It's your starting line. How do you know when you've reached the finish line if you didn't know where you started?
That's right.
You've got to, vision says, once I can see the finish line, I can look back and know where I started. John. He saw the end and was able to look back and say, in the beginning. So this wasn't a swing from the chandeliers, run the aisles kind of message. But it's a message that will change your life. It'll change your walk with God. It's a message that will change the walk with your family. It's a message that the next time you hear Marshall Tucker say, "Can't you see? Oh, can't you see?" I started this out, since all the rain we had. Have you ever seen the rain by Creedence Clearwater Revival? Just a little humor. Anyway. Nice slide. Vision. So, I asked a visionary to impart vision to me. And he did. I haven't nurtured it enough to be able to impart it to other people. But can I pray for your vision?
Yeah.
So right now, Father God, I pray for everyone under the sound of my voice. God, Father, I ask you right now to bless every one of them in here. with ears that hear you and eyes that see you. God, I ask you to whisper a voice in their ear. And whisper something that they've never heard. And then, God, I ask you to reveal a part of you that they've never seen. I ask this, Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus.